Welcome into another episode of Braves Central. Barrett Sallee and Chris Dimino with you. We are the podcast that keeps you up to date on everything going on with the Atlanta Braves. And Chris, what a great weekend it was. 4 of 5 from the Marlins. You win the final 3. You take the doubleheader on Saturday. The bats come alive. You get some good pitching. It was a perfect weekend, save for that Friday game. But it was awesome to see that this team still can be the team that we thought it would be the entire season.
Yeah, a couple of come from behind wins too, which had really not happened very often, scoring late. I'm looking at some numbers. The Braves against teams over 500 has not been good this year. There's been a whole lot of bad. This weekend finally at least put that on hold. And going into Citi Field, Met fans are nervous about everything. It wouldn't matter who they were playing. And this idea that, oh, wait, it's only the Braves, that went out the window with their sweep by the hands of Milwaukee. And they're a struggling baseball team. And the Atlanta Braves, if they're going to do something, and I don't like playing if I can't do this, then I'll do that and I'll feel a little bit better. If you want to play that game, feeling a little bit better would be making sure that the Mets don't wake up over the next 3 days and Met fans leave Citi Field feeling even worse than they walked in there tonight.
Yeah, and if they're going to do that, it might be Spencer Strider who starts to put the stake through their hearts. He had a bad outing last time out, 11 hits. It was the most he's given up in his entire career. He said that a couple of sliders got away from him, and ultimately that is what did him in. And to an extent, he's right. But he still put too many people on base. There were runners everywhere. Spencer's not one of those guys who takes that lightly. He's not one of those guys who's just going to say, okay, let's go get him next time. I would imagine he had a massive dive, a deep dive, Grand Canyon style dive into analytics and how to fix what the problem was and diagnose the problem. But you got a fun pitching matchup because Spencer Strider is looking to rebound, and then Clay Holmes, he's doubled his season-long innings pitched for any point in his career. He's at 120 right now. I think it's at 66 was his season high prior to that. So first-year starter, might be running out of gas. We'll see. But certainly an interesting pitching matchup to start this one off.
I'm not in the business of I can certainly offer an opinion, but I'm certainly not in the business of telling players what it is they should do. I think there was the Michael Harris thing where you go, well, this one seems a little bit obvious. Pulling the baseball seems to have gotten in the way of everything else. And you just sort of see things. Here's what I would say about Spencer Strider's last outing. I wish he would flush it. You just talked about doing the deepest of deep dives after an outing like that. To me, I wish he had a little bit more of the personality of, hey, man, it's gone. It's put away. Because I think what's happening with him now is he fell into that what he got away with, he's not getting away with now. Make a mistake, pay a price. Pay a bigger price because then you might double it up with another one. I sort of thought that was the type of outing that, and I agree with you, personality-wise, it's not him. And he has this thing that even as a fairly young pitcher, and he is still fairly young, big success, injury, don't know, good, and then it was crappy. If it was that bad, and it was as bad as anything we've ever seen out of him, I would hope that he would just flush it. I'm just not sure he's got that type of personality. The reason I say it is, I don't know, can you overanalyze what it is you've done? If you're going to tell me on one hand, a couple of pitches got away, okay, that's it then. So what do you really need to work on? You need to work on not having a couple of pitches get away. There are a couple of guys in this lineup that can do damage. Pete Alonso, one of the only bright spots for Met fans recently has been Alonso's chase at Darryl Strawberry, and they sit tied. And, if he breaks the record over the next 3 days, as long as it's not in a Mets win or it doesn't lead to a Mets win, celebrate him. He's going to become the all-time home run hitter for a franchise. And, we keep asking, why doesn't Steve Cohen want him maybe a little bit more than Pete Alonso wants to be there? I'm assuming there's going to be good crowds tonight. If the Met fans really want to show up, and Braves Mets has always been a big thing, certainly for the last handful of years. If they show up, Alonso's going to get a rousing ovation. If Met fans get that, but then they leave angry, that's a perfect night for me because I don't mind seeing history made. I'm going to watch for it. And, when you do something like that, when you become the all-time home run hitter for any franchise, that's worth celebrating. And Pete Alonso seems to be, I call him a meathead, and he's the perfect home run derby guy, and he's the perfect meathead guy. I say it with a little bit of respect because I think he knows what his job is. perfect night for me over the next couple of days is if you give up a solo shot to Pete Alonso, let him take his bow, beat them, and let Met fans go away angry.
I'm cool with that. As far as Mets fans going away angry, I'm always cool with that. But you're right. I mean, anytime you see history, it's always fun to be a part of it, whether it be watching on TV or being in the stands. But they're a fragile bunch, these Mets, because, I mean, you could see once granted, it was the Brewers and they beat everybody at this point, but the walk-off home run that Isaac Collins had to finish them off on Sunday, it was just picture perfect. You know, it was just chef's kiss. Mwah. What a great way to end a couple of horrible series for the Mets. So, they're fading. And what do we know about Mets Braves? The Braves always have the ability, and generally always have when they've had the chance to make them miserable in every way, shape, or form.
I think the other part is there was a big, dance over the grave of the Atlanta Braves when Met fans realized it was not going to go well. Their reality now is in the middle of the June, they were up 5.5 games on Philadelphia. Now they're 5.5 or 6 back. That's their reality. So the dancing about, hey, I don't care about your World Series in 2021. You're going home and we're going to go to the postseason. Well, in the infamous words of Lee Corso, not so fast, because while the teams behind them might not have enough to push past the Mets might actually give them an opportunity because the Mets might just fall below them the way it's going now. Now, do they have an ability offensively to turn it on a given night? Yes. You talked about Clay Holmes. This is all part of the Ronaldo Lopez. Oh, that could work. Let's make these, Grant Holmes, we tried doing it with him. Now he's shut down. This idea of bringing a bullpen guy out, stretching him out and letting him be a starter for 5 innings, and then we'll figure out the rest of the game. Well, that's okay until either the guy stinks at it or the guy gets hurt. And there is going to be this moment of, oh, wait, that's a hot thing. Who's our bullpen guy that we're going to turn into a starter? Well, if, 75% of them collapse before this thing ever becomes viable and, before you have an opportunity to turn that into playoff wins, maybe it's not going to be the idea. It's a copycat world, and everybody just thought. And I think the Braves were part really at the beginning of this with Lopez. And what do we got? We don't have him this year. A guy like Clay Holmes, we'll find out what he's going to do here on out, as the Mets really need somebody to stabilize whatever it is on the mound, whether it's a starter or whether it's a bullpen guy or whether it's their closer. So I'm kind of interested to see how long this trend exists if we find out that these guys just aren't capable of doing it for whatever reason. And again, I say it all the time. We land stuff on Mars and send pictures back, yet we can't figure out how to get guys stretched out to go 5 innings. 5. So while it's a cheap alternative and it seems to work on paper, if it doesn't work because you got a guy dying by August 1st, or a guy can't actually finish the drill and you were counting on him to be in your rotation in a playoff push, maybe it's not going to be a thing for as long as people thought it was going to be a thing for in baseball.
Yeah, there's no doubt. So Braves are hot, obviously. And look, what we had talked about on the pregame show and the postgame show, let's just enjoy baseball. And I think the fans did that this past weekend. It was fun to go watch a team win. It was fun to support a team that really has not performed in the way that we thought it would be. So now going into New York, keep that momentum going. Let's just, whether it's just to play spoiler or just for our own enjoyment, and to look toward the future, to see what Michael Harris can do, to see if Ozzie Albies can turn things around. Those are fun storylines. And of course, they'll continue this week up in New York.
Yeah, the only other thing is I'd like to see maybe a month where I see Austin Riley and Ronald Acuña, and you play a month of baseball. Now, look, this idea of standing pat and this idea of run it back, there's going to be, it's going to feel, I'm going to have mixed emotions about it. If I see a month of baseball with Austin Riley just being better, if I see a month of baseball where Matt Olson all of a sudden hits a few home runs and Ronald Acuña's back, Michael Harris keeps it up, Nick Allen plays Gold Glove defense, and it helps you win a game or two over a couple of week period, and Ozzie hits a little bit, and then here's Drake Baldwin on his push for Rookie of the Year, there's going to be something that tells me, oh, okay, well, 2026 is set. There's going to be another part of me that says, well, if I'm relying on Waldrop and maybe Wentz, and I'm going to try to spend my money someplace else, what is Profar going to do? Am I going to keep Sean Murphy? What do I do with closer? Is there a chance Marcelo Ozuna's back cheap? Raciel Iglesias is back. This run it back thing, I'm going to have It's not running it back from the 2021 team. And I know that sounds crazy, but it's going to be 5 years removed. And this taste of this season, to wash it and flush it and just say, oh, wait, in March, everything is going to be okay. I'm not so sure that's the case. Like, I'd like to buy a 1, 2, 3. I'd like to buy a top of the rotation guy. I'd like to maybe figure out if I can improve either my second base or shortstop offense, but at a reasonable price, which allows me to buy the starter. Jurickson Profar, the feast and famine of him, I'm ready to not care, like not ride a wave. I'm serious. I don't want to ride a wave. Great defensive play, terrible defensive play. He gets on base, but he doesn't score runs. He hits a 416-foot bomb into the chop house, but then I see him strike out with man on second and third. To me, I don't want to have an emotional investment in him because maybe I'm being petty, but I still think he screwed this team. And I'm not gonna have the satisfaction given to anybody or anything when it comes to watching him to figure out if he can play. I'm gonna need this offseason. And if he's in left field to start next year, maybe the answer over the next 6 weeks is he truly a leadoff hitter. Maybe that's what I'm gonna look for from him, maybe more than anything else. But the run it back really could be in play. And I'm not so sure. Again, I don't want to play Joe Fan and go, oh, I'll never show up again, because it would be a good baseball team that you're spending $230 million on. I just don't think it's going to sit well with a lot of people if it feels like you either A, didn't go spend it, or B, nobody wanted your money, or you couldn't find a dance partner to get better at a couple of positions. It's going to be a little bit of a try for me this offseason to figure out how I feel about that.
I'm with you. I'm right there with you. So we have that to look forward to over the next month and a half. So there's always something going on in Braves country to keep you entertained. We hope we kept you entertained during the course of this podcast. Of course, you can hear us before and after every single Braves game, not only on 680 The Fan, but also on the 680 The Fan app anywhere around the world. He's Chris Dimino, and I'm Barrett Sallee. This has been another edition of Braves Central.